Okay, I think I am next going to do the yellow green and the red violet petals for this. So um, most of this here is the phthalo yellow green by Daniel Smith, which just so happens to be a combination paint of the same pigments as Hansa Yellow Light and phthalo green blue shade. So I have all this nice green here that's made up of those pigments, so I may just mix up, in fact, yes, I will just mix up some Hansa Yellow Light with all the green over here, and eventually that will get me to the same place as if I had just started grabbing some more of the phthalo yellow green, which kind of begs the question, why even get phthalo yellow green? And any color that's a mix of others, one could argue, is not critical, and that makes sense, but there's just a lot of times when it's really nice to be able to grab a particular color really quickly and either use just that color without worrying about mixing it, or mixing it with something else and just getting to a mix quicker. That is seeming like not quite enough of the yellow, and I think if I keep going in that area it's going to keep being a bit too green. So there's green in my brush and I'm getting more yellow. I'm just going to water that down a little bit at the top there. See, shift this around. Now it is nice to get a little bit of darker color like I like to do around the edges. If I really wanted it that way right now, I would let it dry in the position it's in so that that paint would likely stay close to the edge. I know I'm going to sort of do that in several ways, and I want to keep moving forward with finishing at least one layer on each of these petals. So I'm not going to worry about that so much. I'm going to make a clean little spot here and come in with a mix for red violet, which opposite of yellow green. And these double name colors, also sometimes called tertiary, are a little trickier for me and probably others to remember what the complementary color of one is to the other. But when it's a combination name, I will say, as long as you remember that red and green are opposites, and that yellow and purple, then you can combine those to And you would know that red violet or red purple is the complement of the red is the complement of the green, and the yellow is the complement of the violet. It's a long blabby statement, but I'm going to get some Quin Pink here and just a touch of ultramarine blue. Because I want it definitely to be leaning on the red side of violet. Yeah, that seems good. And pretty watery. I've sort of lost my pencil, and to fix that, I'm going to come back here and see if I can semi-remember where that goes. I don't know that I do, but either way, I think I'll give it a go here. Let's see. Maybe a touch more water, especially when I'm not as sure about something. I'll go even more watery because then I know it's going to be that much easier to fix and adjust if I need to. Still, the main idea is to kind of distribute the same amount of wet paint over an entire shape. To try to get, if you're trying to make a clean, flat wash, you try to get consistent moisture and paint distributed throughout the whole shape, which is not simple, especially the bigger the shape is. I think that's pretty close to where the line was. And if not, I'll be able to figure out something. But I will let that dry. I'll set that aside and see if I can do anything here on this one while that's setting aside and drying. And I think what I'm going to do, I know I'm jumping around a lot, so you'll have to just keep replaying these things and learning. But for this blue, as I go down the value scale and try to sort of go to the black quote-unquote black version of blue, the two blues that I use are phthalo blue and ultramarine blue. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to straight ultramarine blue right now. I'm not going to mix in any of the phthalo blue, and that is because as things get darker in real life, they typically get what's called cooler in temperature as well. And this may cause controversy in the art world, but I think of ultramarine blue as actually cooler than phthalo blue. And So I'm just going to use a little bit of ultramarine blue, and as I see this is sort of not getting quite as dark as I want it to, I'm also going to bring in a touch of the neutral tint. So that is to sort of, that's shifting a little bit of the actual hue. And now I'm going, you have to trust me over there, it's neutral tint and is a darker pigment. And I'm going to mix some of that. That might have been a little too much, we'll see. I think that's going to work. I'm going to put both of those on, or that paint on both of these. Grabbing a little bit more ultramarine blue. It was sort of this brush is probably a tad large for this job. I think I just picked up some purple, but that's okay. Actually, it can be quite kind of nice. So that's a good start for those guys. You know, you can tell all these will likely need some sort of adjusting, and that's what I expect. For this one, see if I can pull this one off for this video. It's the blue-green. So it's going to be a combination of those same colors, the phthalo green blue shade and phthalo blue. So that gets me to my blue-green. I have more blue in that, partly for the same reason that as things get darker, they will get temperature-wise cooler, so this will, as it gets darker, I'm trying to think of even less and less of the green, of the blue-green, and more of the blue. And I will probably also need to bring in some, either some ultramarine blue, and in hindsight, that's what I would have done from the get-go. But that's okay. The mixing another mix of ultramarine blue and phthalo green blue shade gets to a really nice darker and even more less saturated. More or less saturated, I just said. I'm just gonna I'm gonna do the old squeeze. So yeah, so as I'm getting darker, especially for these colors that are obviously include blue, it's combinations of the colors that are already there, and as well as sometimes a little more ultramarine blue, and sometimes the neutral tint. So, excuse me, and I will write that down so to make sure you guys have that. I'm going to say that's enough for now. Okay, cool.